that option of just making a different choice, going down the learner path versus the judger path and asking better questions really has come to define how we do things at Tap the Potential. We all try to go down the learner path when things come up.
You work hard in your business. On the Profit by Design podcast, we ask the big question. What has your business done for you lately? Hi, I'm Dr. Sabrina Starling. I'm the business psychologist, the author of the 4-Week Vacation and the How to Hire the Best series, as well as the founder of Tap the Potential, where we coach entrepreneurs like you to design sustainably profitable businesses that give you more time for what matters most and more money in your bank account than ever. Because after all, we believe work supports life, not the other way around. Weekly on the Profit by Design podcast, we bring you tips, tools, and strategies from our own experiences and from the experiences of our guests who are entrepreneurial thought leaders and real life entrepreneurs, all to support you in making intentionally profitable and sustainable business decisions to live the lifestyle you desire. How long have you been in business? And what's the longest amount of time you've been able to be away from your business fully unplugged? And when was the last time you took time off from your business fully unplugged? In my research with over 225 entrepreneurs using the Better Business, Better Life assessment, what I'm discovering is that the average length in business is 12 years. And the most frequently reported number of days you all are saying you're able to be away from your business fully unplugged is 0. So think about how long you've been in business, and if you haven't been able to ever fully unplug, what that's like, and if you had to double the length of time that you're in business and still not take time away fully unplugged. That just sounds exhausting. I want to support you in taking your life back from your business. In this episode, I'm sharing an interview with one of my longstanding clients. We did this interview during the 4-Week Vacation book launch in November of 2021. I believe this conversation will really inspire you to get into action, to start making your business where it can run without you so that you can take time off fully unplugged. You have the opportunity to take the 4-Week Vacation pledge with us at Tap the Potential. When you take the pledge, it's your stake in the ground saying, I need this, I deserve it, and I'm ready for it. So sit back, relax, enjoy this conversation, and don't forget, when it's over, head on over to tapthepotential.com/pledge and make your 4-week vacation pledge.
Profit designers, today I'm bringing you an interview with Chuck Parmely of the Overhead Door Company. Chuck has been one of my longest clients that I've had the privilege of working with. And when I say privilege, I do mean privilege because I have learned so much from Chuck. You'll hear him in the interview say how much he's learned from me, but it truly is a mutual learning endeavor in that as I started my coaching business, he was one of my very first clients with whom I worked. And I really wanted to help Chuck and others like Chuck have businesses where they had a great place to work, great teams, where the business owner is a good leader, and also a profitable business, and one where the business owner could be away. I knew Chuck worked very hard, but in 2018, when he took the pledge at the Breakthroughs Retreat, and he pledged to take a 4-week vacation, and he shared that he hadn't taken more than 5 days off in a row in 40 years' time, it just solidified my conviction that we need to do entrepreneurship differently, that the traditional story of entrepreneurship, of grinding it out, and sacrificing our health and our time with loved ones, all for the sake of the business, is not a sustainable story. It's not sustainable for entrepreneurs to continue to do entrepreneurship in that way. And that's why I wrote the 4-Week Vacation, is because I'm so passionate about the possibility that you can have a business that can run without you. It can be profitable. Your team can step up, and they want to step up, and your business can be profitable. So you can have more time for what matters most. In the 4-Week Vacation, I opened chapter 1 with Chuck's story, and I'm sharing that here with you on the podcast. And then we're going to follow that with Chuck's conversation with me when he attended our virtual invitation-only book launch party for the release of the 4-week vacation. So there's a brief interview with Chuck that will follow me sharing the part of his story that's featured in chapter 1 of the book. I truly hope that Chuck's story inspires you to stick with it and really own what's possible for yourself as you work on your business.
It's March 2018. 20 entrepreneurs have gathered at my home for the Breakthroughs Retreat. We are outside by the pool, sitting under a covered veranda. The sun is out. Birds chirp in the background. Hot pink knockout roses are in bloom. Many participants left cold winter landscapes to enjoy the warmer Louisiana weather while basking in the camaraderie of their peers and enjoying time away from their businesses. Chuck has traveled from Wyoming. He is one of my early clients. Much of what I've learned about what works when it comes to building a sustainably profitable business that gives you your life back, I've learned while coaching Chuck and his peers in Riverton, Wyoming. Chuck is a hard worker. He rarely takes time off from work. I know that about him. But what he says when he takes the 4-week vacation pledge stops me in my tracks. My why for taking a 4-week vacation is that I've spent the last 40 years living and breathing overhead door. The longest I've taken off at one time is 5 days. I deserve this, I want this, and I am ready for it. Chuck, like so many of us, has devoted his life to the success of his company. He takes his responsibilities and obligations seriously. If Chuck says he will do something, you know it will happen. His customers and his team know this about him. It's a great quality in a leader. Yet, this is a double-edged sword, as the cost may be countless hours of time away from home, poor health, and missed experiences with loved ones. Chuck's business is profitable. He has paid off his line of credit. On more than one occasion, his accountant has paid him a personal visit to inquire as to what he is doing. His accountant is curious because in some years, Chuck's is the only profitable business with whom his accountant works. Chuck's business isn't just a little profitable. When he implemented Profit First with us, Chuck more than tripled his profit in the first year and eliminated $140,000 of debt. Chuck currently has no debt and does not use a line of credit. It wasn't always this way. About 5 years ago, Chuck bid on the largest project his company ever performed. He learned a very difficult and painful lesson when he won that project. The project was outside the company's sweet spot, but the size of the project was enticing. Chuck lost money, a lot of money, keeping his word by completing that project. Although the project generated significant revenue, it cost Chuck's company more to perform the work than it made. Other clients became disgruntled as Chuck's team had to focus on the large project. Chuck was back to working 12 to 14-hour days, missing out on time with his wife and time at his cabin, all the while he was neglecting his health. It took multiple years to recover from the financial impact of that loss. Through the School of Hard Knocks, Chuck has learned that it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. He's also learned that running the business from its sweet spot is key to being profitable and creating a great place to work. The overhead door company of Riverton-Lander is a great place to work. Chuck has made this a significant intention. In fact, it's what led him to initiate coaching with me. He wanted to be a better leader. He's succeeded. According to a global survey by Gallup, only 13% of employees are engaged. Chuck's team is different. When they responded to an employee survey that was sent to them when Chuck applied for Inc.'s Best Places to Work Awards, results showed that 92.31% of Chuck's team members are highly engaged. Chuck has implemented the Tap the Potential solution you will hear about in the pages ahead. He has designed a sustainably profitable business that gives him more time for what matters most and more money in his bank account than ever. He has a team he relies upon to run the business in his absence. Did he take the 4-week vacation he pledged to take? Yes. After all, Chuck is a man of his word. And you should know that his 4-week vacation didn't go as planned. However, Chuck did get a couple of weeks off from work, which was much more vacation than he'd taken previously. When he returned,
He looked at what did not work, set out to fix that, and set his business up so that his leadership team runs it in his absence. Now Chuck regularly takes 3 or 4 day weekends to spend time at his cabin. Recently, he underwent multiple back surgeries and lost his mother, all within a few weeks. Chuck wrote to me, "I want to brag about my people. I have been successful so far in taking a 5-week vacation with no hiccups. I believe it will be 6 by the time I go back. I now know I can leave and not have to worry about anything. The next time I take a long leave of absence, it will be for pleasure. Thank you for all you have done for me and for making me into the person I am." By the way, Chuck ended up taking 9 weeks off.
I'll start out like this. Hi, I'm Chuck Parmely, and I'm a workaholic. The 4-week vacation thing was so odd to me because in all the years that I have worked, I never took more than 5 days off at one given time. And that's pretty much over a 40-year stretch. It was just so foreign to me to say, I'm going to take 4 weeks off. I'm not going to be in the business. I'm just going to walk away from it. And I couldn't bring myself to see what would happen if I did that. And my first attempt was not a 4-week vacation. It was about a week's vacation. But it helped me learn what holes I needed to fill in order to be able to take that 4 weeks without more problems popping up. So in that aspect, I've come a long way, and in this last year, I've taken 13 weeks off since February 15th. One stretch was for 9 weeks and the other stretch was for 6 weeks. I guess that's 15 weeks. It wasn't because I wanted to, it was more or less for health reasons. And what I did learn from that was that the people that I have working for me are there to watch out for that company when I'm not there. And they took care of business. I come back, I didn't have any holes to fill. I just come back into the office and picked up where I left off at. And, the business ran without me being there for that amount of time. And I was pleasantly surprised that it did. I mean, so the work that I've done with Sabrina since we started is, I started out, when I started with Sabrina, I was a dictator with my business. You did what I said or you went down the road. And that, of course, didn't work. So I've come a long way from where I started to where I am now working with Sabrina. And it's all been worth it.
To speak to that piece, Chuck, about being a dictator, when you started with me, you recognized that and you also knew that you didn't want to be that way, that it wasn't working for you, but you weren't sure how to do it differently.
Right.
And I think that's something that so many business owners relate to, that we're not sure how to do things differently. We have an idea of what we want to accomplish, but the how to make it happen. And Gallup says that only 13% of employees typically are engaged in a business. Chuck's team is different. When they responded to an employee survey that was sent to them when Chuck applied for Inc.'s Best Places to Work Awards a couple of years ago, results showed that 92.31% of Chuck's team members are highly engaged. That's huge, Chuck. Huge. And none of that came easy for Chuck. He really threw himself all in acknowledging when he didn't know how to do something. We had lots of spot coaching calls. One of the tools that really helped you was the choice map from Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. And that is a tool because I saw how well Chuck and others responded to that tool. We have incorporated it in multiple aspects of our program now at Tap the Potential. But that option of just making a different choice, going down the learner path versus the judger path and asking better questions really has come to define how we do things at Tap the Potential. We all try to go down the learner path when things come up. And you really exemplify that. And you've been very humble. There have been times, like all of us, where you have faltered. You went down the judger path with a team member or with your team, and you will consistently go back to them and you acknowledge where you faltered.
Yeah. When I first started, there were no questions. It was all assumptions. And, assumptions and being the judger. I mean, you have no idea what that other person is thinking or what that other person has in their mind. And if you have those conversations in your mind, how the conversation is going to go, it's just a total waste of your time, because it's totally different when you get ready to start. And, the first question or the first things that come out is nothing like what you had planned in your mind. So, that worry is worthless. And I have been humbled many times. And I think what has helped with my team being so behind me is that when I make a mistake like that, I sit down and talk with them and let them know that, I was wrong. And, to have that come from employer to an employee, that's probably something that's really foreign to a lot of employees' ears. But, admit the mistake and make sure that everybody learns from that mistake, and then you move on. And it doesn't need to be brought up again.
Thank you. Those are some powerful words of wisdom. Chuck, are there other learning points for you in terms of getting your business where it doesn't rely on you?
Well, you mentioned the Pumpkin Plan, and Profit First. I mean, that's an everyday thing that we say around here, because, it's probably not every day, but we hear it quite often about customers that we want a pumpkin plan because, they're just not worth the effort it takes to satisfy them. And then Profit First, I'll share some really sensitive information about my company this year. We haven't profited since January. It's been a tough year for us. And the sad part about it is that we've got $1.5 million worth of work sold, but we can't go do it because we can't get the material. But still, every month every week I write those profit checks. They go where they need to go. I have not faltered from putting that money where it needs to go. We haven't used our credit line for 6 to 8 months now. I mean, it's, even though we're not making profit, the money that we had put in place is helping us get through this rough time. So, once you find those rules and niches that help improve your business, don't falter away from them when stuff gets going tough again. You just got to keep pushing.
I think that it's really important for us to remember with COVID, especially. Businesses sometimes on the surface look like they're doing just fine. I'm sure most people in your town wouldn't suspect that you're dealing with the challenges that you're having.
Right.
And Profit First really allows us to keep a business going through challenging times that we have no control over. Riverton has been hit, the economy there has been hit significantly in the last few years. And I know there have been at least on 2 occasions where your accountant has personally paid you a visit to ask you what you're doing in your business, because you're the only business owner he's doing the books for that has a profitable business.
Right. And that, that's a good feeling when the accountant comes to you and says, what are you doing? It's just, I guess it's humbling again when an accountant comes to you and says, tell me what you're doing.
When I went and Rodrigo was there when we went to the Pumpkin Plan immersion event. And one of the things, Rodrigo, that I remember Mike and Donna saying to us is that we will overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and underestimate what we can accomplish in a decade. And Chuck, you and I have worked together a little more than a decade now. And I think about where you were when we started, and I had highest hopes that you were going to turn Overhead Door into a great place to work. You were going to be a great leader. You are now. And I look back, over a decade of work and what you've accomplished. And when I said to you early on, it would be really cool if you could take a 4-week vacation and unplug. And I remember that conversation. It was at a retreat that we did at CWC where Mike McAllowitz came, and there were several of us in this small room. And I said to you and a couple of other clients, I said, wouldn't it really be cool to take a 4-week vacation? And some of the conversation was like, yeah, that'd be really cool, but I don't think that's going to happen.
It'll never happen.
It'll never happen.
Can't do that.
And you've done it. And I think this is an important thing that we all need to remember about the 4-week vacation. It's not about sitting on the beach sipping margaritas. that's a wonderful thing to get to do. But it really is about creating your business where it's sustainable, where it can keep going. Because 7 or 8 years ago, if you'd had to be out of your business for 4 weeks or 9 weeks or 13 or 15 weeks, the business would have been in much more dire straits. You've been able to be away from your business. You've continued contributing to the profit first accounts. The revenue is backed up in your business right now simply because of the supply chain issues. And I can imagine if that would have happened 8 or 9 years ago, it would have had a completely different impact on
We'd be out of business.
Yeah. So that I want everyone listening to this to know that right now you might be in the middle of the weeds, and it may feel like, I don't know if I could ever get to where a 4-week vacation can happen, or I don't know if I could ever get to where I have enough money in the profit account to sustain the business for 6 months if we had to. But those small steps forward, taken in a consistent direction, lead to huge, huge change over a period of time. And even when you're taking those small steps forward and there's some steps back, as long as you get back on track, which Chuck had steps back, and he consistently got back on track. The other thing, Chuck, that I'm going to share is there were a few times you wanted to drop out of coaching because you thought things were good enough, and I wouldn't let you stop. I told you you're not done yet. You can do more and you can do better.
That's absolutely true. I mean, it's just like when you're working with us, that you give us little nuggets to think about, and we always come up with the answer. You never give us the answer, but you give us those nuggets to start digging and figure it out. And that's what's so special about the way you coach. When Sabrina and I first started, the word consultant come up, and I had used consultants 2 times before I ever tried working with Sabrina. To me, a consultant was somebody that was just going to come in and take your money and give you a bunch of paper and with words on it. And that's what they did. They took a bunch of my money and left me with a bunch of notebooks that I should sit down and read. Sabrina, I told her, I says, I'll never call you a consultant because you don't consult, you coach us. You give us the nuggets to make us better than what we are. And that's what's happened is that she's made me a better business person, a better husband, a better employer. I'm better in all those aspects just because of listening and in myself wanting to be that better person. And I guess, it's not going to work if you don't want to do it. You got to have to want to do it and put the time into it and listen, because there's a lot of words of wisdom out there.
Wow, what a powerful conversation. I so appreciate Chuck being willing to share his experience with us. I hope it inspires you to think through all the various reasons for taking a 4-week vacation. When Chuck initially made the pledge, he made it because he recognized he deserves time off from his business. He's been in business 40 years and he deserves that time off. But as he told his story, what also came to be so relevant is that there were other reasons he needed his business to be able to run without him. He went through health issues where his business had to run without him. And he went through a loss in his family and his business had to run without him. So when you are setting your business up to be able to run without you, you are building in a significant risk protection for yourself, your family, and your team members. Because if things fall apart when you leave, it's not just you being impacted. Your team is going to be impacted. Your family is going to be impacted by your stress level. And of course, obviously, you will be impacted. So I encourage you, head on over to tapthepotential.com/pledge, make the 4-week vacation pledge, and watch your inbox, because as soon as you make the pledge, we're going to invite you into our Better Business, Better Life Jumpstart, where we can support you in putting the foundation in place in your business to make that 4-week vacation possible. Thank you for spending time with me today. Join me in our Tap the Potential Mighty Networks community at tapthepotential.com/group. Share your aha moments from today's episode, ask me questions, and join in on the fun with your fellow entrepreneurs on the journey to designing sustainably profitable businesses that give you more time for what matters most and more money in your bank account than ever. Isn't it time you take your life back? And finally, share today's episode with a friend if you know a friend who would enjoy it. This is real life business. Keep your chin up, keep moving forward. You got this.